In this very lifeless and sterile world, I prefer to make videos spontaneously. I don't really like to plan out everything so much, and I really don't enjoy making thumbnails all the time and being some kind of super editor for YouTube because it's important for me that people understand that my thoughts are something that I value and they are something that I think is well constructed, maybe not perfectly all the time, but it's well processed. And I would not like for that to be mixed with commercialism, with thoughts about influencers and all these people that have made a false image of knowledge. This video is probably titled in some way either about centrality and transcendence or balance and transcendence, or it might be something else that I've come up as I've made the video along the way. So you're in the process, right? As you watch this video, you're actually just part of the process of even making it indirectly because I'm thinking about what to talk about. But essentially, transcendence and balance, right? Two very core ideas to my way of living right now. Balance is not merely an act of moderation. It's not merely a virtue for me. Balance is a sacred reality of the universe for me. It is an evident manifestation and a hidden truth that unveils to people in different times and in different ways. Sacred balance is the regulation of the world's organism, of the world's reality, either through the joining of opposites or through the immanence of balance itself into opposites, into fragmented units that require balance, that need balance to survive. Transcendence, on the other hand, is the ability to perhaps even overwhelm balance, to go out of it, to move vertically towards the heaven, to ascend. Transcendence is the ability to overcome your own self after having mastered certain arts. A very familiar idea exists in Asian, or to be more specific, Japanese philosophy, which we are taught in Japanese sword fighting schools like that of Miyamoto Musashi, Nittanichi Ryu. And that principle is shu ha ri. Learn, copy, or learn to pattern, right? And then transcend, right? Overcome yourself. The idea is a threefold process. You first learn about reality, you first learn what the rules are about something, you first learn to write, read, perform, act, understand whatever job you're involved in or art. Then you learn to copy the master, right? You learn to mimic the master, you perfect the forms, you learn all the forms of the art, and then you transcend. You are ready to become a master of either a new art that's based on the old one, or you're still in that same art, but you transcend its ordinary regularity, right? You move towards a vertical, towards transcendence. There's something that makes you able to understand more about the combinations of ideas, methodologies, and things that appear in a certain art or science. I would argue that between balance and transcendence there is a even greater level, which is that of perfection, which is the depth of all things. It is when you actually are able to come back from transcendence, once you've transcended a certain art and you're able to teach it in new ways or in old ways, you're able to understand where you are destroyed and you're able to understand where you succeed. You control your very victory and defeat. You are in the depth of reality, right? You're not in just the vertical or horizontal dimensions, but also in the depths of all things. You permeate your own reality by the will of God. So this is something that I practice in my life. I don't really think that I'm a very moral example in my life, even though I strive to be one as much as I can. Not an example for other people, but for my own self. And I suppose for my own family. But one thing that's very interesting is that even in the depths of despair, or even in moments when I think that I have lost strength, I still have an inclination and a tendency towards perfection. Not a perfection where I would destroy myself, but a perfection where I would not allow for myself to lose the honor of the image of God, the honor of the ability to be the best that I can be, right? To put it in simpler terms. I think it's important to say that I really wish that people were able to see each other's faults and each other's reasons for those faults, whether they are in traditions which or in practices of life which demand a certain type of traditional or national or moral or religious path, or they're more on a individual, local influencer kind of path or a modern type of path. You know, essentially, if the conservative and the liberal can understand each other, right? To put it in terms of American politics, the issue is obviously 1,000 times more deep than just American politics, but it's a quick way to explain that. I wish that people were able to see that what is a problem for one person is a solution for another, right? For somebody, it's a problem that they don't have money. For somebody, it's a solution. And the reason being is because maybe they had too much money, so now just getting rid of that headache that comes with it might be better. For some people, it's the opposite. Their problem is that they don't have enough money. So their solution is to accrue more and get it, right? But the issue doesn't arise, essentially the human issue, I believe, in the human condition, the socio-psychological condition, which affects us individually and societally and on the family level specifically, right? And on the co-worker level, right, for people that are in consistent environments where they have to work with each other and they're not alone, is the lack of interaction. It is the lack of empathy. Empathy is the most missing human virtue in today's age, specifically in the last 10 years. People have brought the warrior mentality to such an extreme that there's no more empathy. And the original warrior, the primordial warrior, the warrior of the people who protected the people was a man of empathy, because he goes to war out of empathy for his own people and his own nation and his own self to protect these objects, right, including himself. But empathy was lost. You were given bad examples of men. You were given false masculine examples that demand complete physical prowess from everyone, which is impossible. It will never happen. You will only have a handful of champions in the world and people that are in a wider circle around them, but you will never have champions in everyone and in every single person. The middle point of life is the reality of life. Everyone is, ideally speaking, supposed to be in balance. They are supposed to be at the middle of things. If the balance of reality can be perfected, the rest of reality will work fine. But if you do not respect the middle, which is between the champion and between the commoner, which is between the average earning person or the poor person and the rich person, right? And I've purposely said average because we would want our average to be lifted so that it's a middle class and not a lower class, right? Unfortunately, we live in a world where still not much of social justice has been established, partly because rulers from one side are either lazy or arrogant or unwilling to help, partly from the other side because the people are unwilling to fight for themselves on an individual level, and they're also unwilling to do that on a collective level to fix the government around themselves, or at least to fix the mentality in which they treat each other in a certain way. Aggression cannot be the main mode of speaking. It cannot be the main mode of treating one another. Aggression and distance, which is unnecessary, cannot either be the mode of marriage or of intimacy or love, right? It's a complete disgrace and a shame that playing with distance is the basic norm, the standard of male and female interactions. In traditional societies, you actually had distance, but people meeting and marrying, which is the highest level of of joining, of union of the two opposite sexes, was encouraged. So you had that dichotomy. Here it's something of an inverse, right? The union is encouraged via the distance, which is sick because it will never result in any kind of union, right? Now, I'm not encouraging people to get married. I don't care if you want to get married or not. That's none of my business. But what I'm encouraging people is to become aware of the primordial state, which is that we are supposed to live somewhat in balance. This balance can manifest in multiple ways. It can be a balance of asceticism, where people are renouncing the world and they live in balance with nature, and they're fed through the energies and powers of the natural world. And this is not some kind of like pseudo-scientific thing. This is a psychological thing of just going out, touching grass, and letting the environment impact you and live within you. Another way, which isn't ascetical, which is more dedicated to living with people, would be that of a proper balance, right? Of getting enough money so that you're satisfied in life, having enough space in an environment to get new jobs, opportunities, to meet people, to have enough friends, not too many so you're not stressed out, and not too little so you're not left alone, and then that you find a partner. This is a natural mode of being. The third option of balance would be to strive for perfection, right? Which is to tell people, okay, we'll make a mandate 4 years or 8 years or 10 years of rule where we're gonna put everything on complete power mode, maximum. We have to prepare for possibly future wars. And the idea is that balance in this situation is making everything come in perfect harmony, right? That we make the best of warriors, the best of artists, the best of philosophers, the best of scientists, and then we make a balanced society in that sense. But yet the driving factor is balance, right? It's moderation in the world. The driving factor wouldn't be that people overcome each other and then let the fittest survive. This is ridiculous. If your problem is overpopulation, too many human beings, then learn to have less children. Learn to have 2 instead of 4, for example. It's a simple trick, but it's viable and usable. Learn to have 1 child. If you're afraid and you're so traditional and obsessed with having children and you believe all kinds of religions, then doesn't it make sense to you that if you decide not to have more than 1 child, that what was supposed to be your progeny will be born again in a different body, in the children of your children, right? This is a possible reality. You cannot make a soul that God made in the pre-natal world never to exist. That's not going to happen. If God has decided that He'll create a certain human being, a certain soul, He will create it. Whether it's going to be your child or someone else's child, that doesn't matter. He's going to do that. So people shouldn't worry about not having children. What they should worry about is how they have children and for what reason do they have children. There's so many marriages that are made where children are dysfunctional, and the reason for that is because they get married without any plan and without any sense for where they're going to go with their progeny, and without any reality check of the fact that their progeny can always go to a different way that they didn't want them to go. These are serious problems that people need to be aware of before they engage in these kind of activities. Yes, people will maybe attack some of us who have these kind of like more deep philosophical thoughts about life. How can you tell us not to have so many children? That's very inhumane. How can you not tell us to have a family life? Well, yeah, you can have all of that, but are you really having a family life? Or is this a failed project? Are you really having children that you're taking care of? Or are you just treating yourself with progeny to fix some issues that you had on your own? Are you really, truly creating a family where every single member is important and has a sense for purpose and education and tolerance and some kind of love exists? Or is this another animalistic, produce of your broken ego? I'm sorry to be tough, but these are serious matters. If people are going to promote over and over and over and over again in media that we need family life and values and that we need men to be masculine and we need them to work to this extent and that extent, are you going to guarantee as a state, as well, on a state level, let's address the state now, an environment which will foster good families? If not, then the greatest deed and the most virtuous action of the man in this world, in this generation, is to say, I will not have a family. I will refuse to feed a machine that will enable me to have a family that will end up in a disaster. No, I will revolt and I will work for my own self, and I will not work in environments that feed that machine. This is the bravery. This is the common goal for the human being today, to break the falsehood, the hypocrisy, the one eyed, one dimensional narrative that is being given to people, of no sense for versatility, of no sense for multiple disciplines, of no sense for multiple views on life, of no sense for depth, right? There's no depth. Depth has to be restored. You cannot have a civilization with depth. Anything that lacks depth is the loss of civilization, and it is the fall to barbarism. If you knew any type of understanding that the Romans had, for example, in the Roman Empire, barbarians were people of no depth. Barbarians were people of no intellect. This was their view. Sometimes the Romans were unjust, and they would name actually quite wise people, like the Illyrians, as barbaric, and they weren't. So there's that side of the injustice as well. So again, if you notice the way that I speak, I try to have empathy for different sides that conflict, right? Now, what do we do about people that are found in this mess right now? Well, the biggest solution is actually very simple. It is to bring everyone to awareness in their vicinity, and all the people that are affected, into sacred balance, into the idea of a sacred balance in nature, in the human condition, and the similar. If they wish to refuse that, then work in a way where your balance is not broken. Your own balance in your life, the balance of your own life, is the biggest priority that you have. If that means that other people are not going to be satisfied by you, then don't take that into consideration. Focus on your own balance. Take some sacrifice which is sufficient to work on them, but if they cannot and refuse to and do not want to get out of that state which is imbalanced, then don't harm your own self with that. Save yourself before it is too late. Be your own savior. The Messiah, I believe personally, is Jesus Christ, the servant and messenger of God, since I'm Muslim. But the Messiah is also an archetype, right? You have to be a Messiah to your own self. You have to be your own savior. You have to be the one that brings light into the darkness of your own soul. And in that sense, you will be able to succeed. And this is a type of advice that you will not get from influencers, because influencers will tell you to go out and get money. They will tell you to go out and succeed. I will not say that. I will tell you to be out there and revolt and refuse to be part of this system which wants to bring you out of humane balance, which wants to make your relationships miserable, which wants to make you feel miserable because you're doing a regular 9-to-5 job, which most of humanity will have to do. Most of humanity has to complete basic tasks so that we can have a functioning society. The goal is not to make a small amount of people rich. The goal is to make people commonly wealthy enough that they're satisfied. I'm not calling for socialism. I don't mind if there's billionaires, millionaires, but if there are billionaires and millionaires, they have to be the most aware of the basic human condition and the mentality that is being fostered. And they need to invest money into helping people escape these mentalities, into helping people rescue themselves from these one-dimensional mentalities that are ruining families, that are ruining human beings, and that are not respecting the image that we're created in. This is the way of life that I've committed to. A balance, a transcendence, and a perfection. I do not succeed at it all the time. In fact, I fail a lot at it. But it will always be the way that I control my life. And right now I am emphasizing the aspect of transcendence, because a lot of weakness has been given to us who have tried to fight for a just and balanced society. So I have to fight in a way, I have to emphasize in a way the transcendence of balance, the power of balance to impose itself over all these false idols and false ideologies which are ruining the human being. I hope that that was beneficial, and I hope that you will leave this video with power, because you need power if you are to live in balance, before you need anything else. And when you come out strong, then you tame that with regularity, with moderation, so that you do not go to an extreme. All right. Take care, folks. See ya. Bye bye.